Hi there, I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent training. Welcome to our Friday live question and answer class. Each Friday we meet and talk about a topic for American accent training, American English pronunciation, intonation, things to help you improve your overall communication, both professionally and personally when you're speaking American English. You can ask your questions at any time, and we'll talk about those questions and topics. I love it when people ask questions because it gives me ideas for what to do in upcoming classes, what new videos to make, and what's really useful for you. So thank you for those of you who've been coming to class, asking questions, commenting and asking questions on videos, and checking out our community page on YouTube where we have polls and questions. The information I get from you really helps me shape the channel and make it better. So thank you very much. And today I want to talk about a specific topic. And your questions can be about this topic or about other things that you have been wanting to know. So you don't have to be on my topic. What I want to talk about is how American English has spelling that differs from the sounds in words. And so there's many times when we are mispronouncing certain words because of the way they're spelled. We have accent patterns, of course, in English from our native language, and we have errors and differences because of that. But there's some things that non-native speakers do that it's not an error that you have because of your native language. It's because English doesn't really make a lot of sense in terms of spelling. Yes, we have some rules, and I'm going to share some of those with you in class today and some resources for how you can use those to help you. Unfortunately, we have many, many exceptions to the rules for spelling. And so I'll give you another approach to look at how to pronounce words, how to understand how words are pronounced and the sounds in the words that's separate from spelling that you can use to help you overcome some of these issues that result from spelling. So let me give you some examples. Thank you for your nice messages and your questions. So I want to talk about the community page for this channel because I've been really actively posting on there with sneak previews of what's coming up, with polls, with resources that you can download, free information. It's a great way to check in every day and get just a little piece of information to help you along your way. And so for those of you who are new or haven't checked that out, when you go to your YouTube homepage, you'll see in your homepage that the channels that you've subscribed to will have some little posts. So here's one of my posts from yesterday. And in this post, I'm just asking people to tell me what words they struggle with. I got some great information from people saying, which words were hard. And I let them know where they could find some resources for those words. And it also went on my list of videos to make for people to help them with particular words. So when you're subscribed to the channel, you will see these daily updates on your homepage. And you can also turn on notifications. That'll let you know when I'm live, when I have uploaded a new video. It'll send you whatever notification you like. Or if you just subscribe, you'll be able to see my material in your homepage. It also tells YouTube, yes, this is a channel that is useful for people and they want to know about it. So at any rate, when you go to the channel page, you can go to the community. So here I'm going to just click on speech modification, the channel. And right up above, you can see that we have my videos, my playlists, and then there's community. And so I will show you later in the broadcast how to use some of these other resources. But right now, I just want to show you the community page because I encourage you to go there. And so just this morning, it looks like 3 hours ago, I guess you can see that great from the camera, sorry. 3 hours ago, I posted a poll, a question, and I said, okay, which of these words, which of these groups of words all have the same vowel sound? And so I'll write it out for you and so you can hear it, so you can see them. And this was a little quiz to help you get ready for today's class, thinking about sounds and spelling. So the first group of words is, I'm not going to say them because I want you to use your eyes and read them first. Because what happens is when I'm reading and looking at words, the letters influence my thinking about how the sounds should be said. Versus when you hear, That sometimes can help you. If you heard me say these words, you might better be able to identify which ones have the same vowel sounds. And I'll just put the first two on here, so I'm not writing, so you're not waiting too long to see it. Okay, so in the first group of words, we can see that we have lots of different vowel letters. So my vowel letters in English, I only have 5. I have the A, the I, the E, the O, and the U. And unfortunately, those 5 letters have to cover all 15 vowel sounds. So you can see right away we have a problem for spelling. Not only that, I don't spell the same sound consistently. So every time I see an A, it doesn't say the same thing. Every time I'm trying to say, for example, the A sound, which is one of the sounds that A makes, I don't spell it the same way. And so in these words, if you look at them, we have lots of different letters. We have an AY, an E, an EA, and an AI. However, listen to the words: says, end, health, again. And in this word, I'm talking about the second vowel, not the first. One more time. Says, end, health, again. So maybe if you've been listening to vowel sounds, paying attention to American English, you could hear that those were actually all the same vowel sound. Those were all vowel eh. I like to call that vowel the red tent vowel. And I'll explain what I mean by that in a minute. I use anchor words like red tent to represent the vowel sounds to help you remember them and to orient to them. And so usually the letter for the vowel eh is letter E, like in red, like in tent. Many, many times when I see the letter E in words, it's going to be the eh sound. But here we can see, all right, that works for end, but what about says or health or again? I'm not spelling the eh sound with E in these words. And in fact, I might not have a problem saying the eh sound. Maybe I do for my accent, but maybe I just say this word incorrectly because I see that AY and I think about the word say that has vowel A, right? It should make sense. Say, says. Unfortunately, the vowel changes when this becomes the word says instead of say. And so it's helpful to have a way to represent these vowel sounds and a way to be oriented to what the vowel sounds are so that when I have this pointed out to me or when I'm trying to use the word says, I'm saying it like says. So that's one of my techniques, is to rewrite the word in a spelling that makes more sense to my brain. Or I can use my symbol and I can say, okay, that's a s, and a z. I can use my IPA symbols to represent the words. Many of you don't want to learn the IPA symbols, and you absolutely do not have to. However, for vowel sounds, it can be kind of useful because I can look in the dictionary and say, oh, okay, for the word says, here's my S symbol. And for the word say, here's my A symbol. So I know those vowels aren't the same. Same thing for health. And again, when I see EA, I think it should sound like E, like vowel E. So this vowel in green tea, I usually spell. EA will usually say E like T. In the word health, unfortunately, it says eh. Same with AI. And again, here's another word where if I see the word gain, I might think, oh, vowel A, gain, again. But instead, in American English, we'll say again. We don't use the A vowel, even though AI typically will be that vowel sound. We say again. So this looks like kind of a mess now, and spelling and sounds can be kind of a mess, but I'm going to give you some resources and some ways to clear this up, to understand it, etc. So on the community poll, to answer my own question, these words, the first choice, says, end, health, and again, are the ones with the same vowels, versus some of the other choices on there look like they should be the same. So for example, tea, sea, bean, and this word all look like they should be the E vowel because that's our typical spelling. But in American English, we don't say been, I've been busy. We say been, I've been busy. So that's a British English, other dialects of English, American English difference. So it's, and again, another example where your brain sees those two E's and it says, well, of course, that should be the same as been. It should be an E, a vowel, a green T vowel. But in our case, in American English, it's actually an I vowel, like in pink pig or in this kind of bin. And so I can rewrite bin like this. I can start to pair those two words together, or I can use my anchor words and my anchor symbols, my IPA symbols, to help me understand that this one is an exception. So I have a lot of resources to show you for the most common words, which ones follow the rules for spelling and which ones don't, how to know what those rules for spelling are, and what all those different vowel sounds are. You may have seen this week, I've uploaded, and last week, quite a few new videos with my vowel anchor words, with sample words, and some help to get you oriented to vowels in general. Spelling does affect consonants as well, but for vowels, it's typically worse, and that's where I recommend getting started with paying attention to spelling versus sounds. Consonants, there's, again, exceptions to the rule, things that don't make sense, but sound by sound, it's a little bit less, it's a little bit more systematic, the spelling for consonant sounds than for vowel sounds. Okay, I'm going to take a break here from this topic to look at your questions and answer some of those. And then we'll come back to it in just a moment. Thanks for all the comments and for your patience waiting for your questions to be answered. We have a question about, I wonder if you use the word to overset. I can't find it in dictionaries, and what does it mean? I don't know that word overset, unless that's a typo for oversee. Overset. My guess is that it would have something to do with something being placed over something else. But let's use an online dictionary. So I like the Oxford Learner's Dictionary. And you said you couldn't find it, so maybe we won't find it in the Oxford Learner's Dictionary. But oops. So I'm going to go to that. I should have it bookmarked on here. I think I do, actually. I like the Oxford Learner's Dictionary, particularly for sounds and spelling, because it uses the IPA symbols, and I can see how to pronounce words based on the sounds. For a word that I don't know, I can also look it up and see, is that a real word? Is that something no, it's saying no match for that in English. So I'm thinking maybe it's either not a real word or it's something very specific in jargon for a particular use. But as far as I can tell, no, overset is not a word. Okay, next question. In the previous class, you taught how to pronounce the Z at the ends of words by making the vowel longer, and that helped me a lot. Great, I'm glad. But my question is, does that also apply to voiced consonants? Should I make the voiced consonant longer? So it's not necessary to hold the consonant longer. If your question is, does that apply to other voiced consonants as well? Yes, it does. So the D sound, the G sound at the ends of words, my vowel is longer. My consonant sound isn't necessarily any longer, or not really perceivably longer. So if I'm saying, for example, bus and buzz, just now I did say the Z a little longer so you would hear it. But if I'm talking about I heard the bus, I heard the buzz, I don't think I hold that consonant longer in either case. If you're working on making sure you get that Z sound at the end, you can lengthen to help yourself, especially when you're practicing, to hear and make sure that that voice consonant is there, but it's not necessary for differentiating those in speech. Great question. Thank you. Next question. How can I link, let's see. Oh, I lost your message. It was retracted. Okay, so you can ask it again if you want, or I'll go on to the next question for now. Okay, here's a question about a word that doesn't have a meaning, but that someone wants to know how to say. So this word, if it's not a real word, you can pronounce it however you want. If you're trying to follow the rules for American English, you'd probably have a vowel A there. So like the word pad. And for the final consonant, you probably have first syllable stress, and you'd have a short second consonant, and you'd have a zun sound for Z-O-N. So you can put it together based on those types of rules. Yeah, I don't know. If it's not a real word, I guess there's different interpretations of how you might want to say it. Okay, great. So let's get back to the topic of sounds and spelling. Okay, here's your question is back. How can I link the word end with the word ending with th sound with the next word with an s sound? And next word with the th sound. Says that and less, and the tongue less than. That's the. Okay, so your question is about linking words, and when there's a th and then the next word has an s. So for example, with some, or the other way around, like says that, or less than. Let's use less than because that's got an s instead of a z. Okay, so when I say with some, I'm not really linking those words, not technically, in that it doesn't sound like one word. For example, like if I'm linking with a, it's really almost like one word, with a. I'm going right from the th into the a. When I'm saying with some, I'm not going, there's a tiny break because I have to pull my tongue back and form the S sound. So with has tongue between teeth, some has tongue behind teeth, with some. And so my th sound, there's a tiny pause before my S sound starts. If I said with some, I can link them, but Americans wouldn't typically do that because they're two very distinct tongue positions. And to have my th be clear and my S be clear, I don't really need to link. If you want to be able to say them fluently and smoothly in connected speech, you can practice with some, going back and forth between those words and feeling the tongue position of the two words to make sure you're accurate in both. But I wouldn't really try to link them. Versus less than, yeah, same thing. I can't move from less to than without a little bit of a pause or a break there. Less than 20, less than 20. Unlike, so there's again going to be a little break for precision in those two. Unlike a phrase like in the, which I do tend to link in the by putting my tongue into the N position and the TH position at the same time. Good. So good observation. We don't always link every single word. And when you find it difficult to do certain combinations of sounds from one word to the next, the best manner of achieving that and being fluent with that is really just trying lots of practice moving back and forth between the two so that your motor articulators get used to that and can form some habits and some capabilities to go back and forth there. Great question. Okay. Okay. Susan says, I think I wrote my question wrong. My question was, is the consonant before Z longer? Oh, okay. So if you're talking about, for example, things like beds, where there's a D, Z at the end, beds. If I have a consonant before my Z, what's going to happen is that this vowel is still going to be longer, beds. But I can't, for many consonants, I can't make them longer or shorter. I can't make a D sound any longer or any shorter because it's a pushed out sound. Once I form it and release it, it's done. Bed, beds. If I had, for example, moms, I can hold some consonants like I can hold it, moms, but I don't believe that I would lengthen there either. The length differences happen on the vowels. So when you have consonant clusters, just be careful to have the vowel before them be longer and keep your voice on for both of those consonants. I'm only going to have a voiced Z sound if I'm adding it to a word that has a voiced sound. And so that rule of lengthening the vowel before the voice sound is going to apply in any case when there's a Z sound at the end. So thank you for clarifying so that we got your question right. I hope the other information was useful for you as well. Okay, so talking about sounds and spelling. So we looked at the community page. I'm going to suggest checking that out. I'll keep giving you little things to think about every day to keep improving. And when you're looking at the words there on the community page, if you're reading them, you may have difficulty differentiating the vowels or knowing what's happening. If you read them aloud, that might help you a little bit. But if you have accent error patterns on those words, it's still going to be challenging to compare and hear the correct word. And so how to begin to hear the vowel sounds and use comparison, use that to help you, is by using the anchor words. And so those are in my videos, as I said recently. And I want to show you a download that I have that's free right now on speechmodification.com. And you can find that if you go to speechmodification.com and you go to the free practice page, and that's here across the top. We have information about different training options, my free screening courses, and just go to the free practice and go to free practice, online practice free trial. And then you can connect and make a search there. And actually what I wanted to say, here's an example of one of my recent lessons and videos about the vowel sounds. I just posted that this week. Actually, for this download, go to the store page. So I misspoke earlier. And on the store page, you can download this guide. I have a couple of different guides for vowels. And the one I'm going to recommend here is this one that's free right now, the American English Vowel Sounds. And you can download it as a PDF. You can print it out, or like if you have a device like I do, you can see it on your device. And this is a really, really great starting point for understanding vowel sounds, as well as overcoming some of these issues that we have from spelling. So I have for you, this is called the vowel quadrangle, and I've talked about this in many classes before, but it's a representation of where the vowel sounds are made in the mouth. And what I have for you is the symbol, the IPA symbol, the anchor word, and the placement in the mouth. And down here below is what I want to highlight, which is this chart gives you so much information all in one place. So it gives you the sound. For example, here's the E sound, like we were talking about with bean and green tea. And then it shows you how that is most frequently spelled. So most of the time in English, when I have the sound E, it's spelled with EE or EA. There are some exceptions. Also just E, like in me. Here's my vowel anchors. And then here are the 10 to 12 most frequently used words that have that sound. So I can see that if I'm working on the E sound, please, here, keep, least, etc., I can see those words. I can also use this then to see where those exceptions are to the spelling. So when we were talking about says and health and again, how they had that vowel, here's that vowel here, vowel The IPA symbol looks like a little bit of a cursive or funny looking E. So yeah, usually is spelled with letter E. That's the most common spelling. And that's the spelling in my anchor words, red tent. But you can see there's a lot of common words that have the S sound, like any and again and already, and said and friend, that have a different spelling. And so I can look at this list and say, oh, okay, I knew that met and help and went had the S sound. I'm used to that, spelled with E. But usually if I see this word here, I might think said instead of said. My brain tells me with that AI to say A, and I can start to pair that word said, and I can say, oh, okay, red said, those should rhyme. And I can begin to use these anchor words as a place for hearing the vowel sounds, making comparisons, and correcting some of these errors that come from spelling. Of course, this isn't all of the words in English, but it is the ones that we use the most. So even when you have a vocabulary of thousands and thousands of words, there's about 1,000 words or less that we use for about 80% of our speech. So all of my classes, all of my training, focus in on these core words and combinations of words that we use the most, because if you can correct those, and that's 80% of your speech, that's really going to correct a lot of your accent error patterns. Of course, you need to look at other words that you use frequently, and you want to have the resources and tools to change your speech for everything and anything you want to say. But if you start by focusing on these cores and really using those to practice, it's very functional. It's the things you actually say, and you'll correct some of those little errors that make your speech sound different or make it difficult to understand you because of your accent. So that's my spiel about that. Hi, everybody. Thanks for nice to see you, those of you who are joining in. We have a question, which is, could you explain how to pronounce words ending in the letters ER? Okay, so in American English, when we have the letters ER, typically we always say those as vowel and we use a tight back American R. I'm going to recommend for you that you check out my American R playlist because it has a lot of detailed descriptions for how to make American R. But assuming you can do your sound, the thing to watch out for in these kinds of words like paper, better, together, whenever, is to make sure that you do the sound, but that usually it's unstressed. And so I'm usually going to have the important part of the word in these words is the first syllable. So I'm going to be long and then short. Paper, better. And what happens for some people is that when they're trying to be unstressed on that last syllable, it ends up coming out sounding more like paper or better. And so you have to make sure that your tongue is tight and making the paper, better, and that you're not falling into this pattern, which is more typical of British English and some of the other dialects of English. They might say paper or better, but in American English, we always say that R sound. In terms of what to do to make the R sound, again, check out my American R playlist and my videos for American R, and they'll show you exactly how to shape that tight back tongue you need to get the sound. Thanks for your question. That was great. Okay, another question. Can I say hundreds without the D? Hundreds. So the first D, hundreds, we need hundreds. I think you need both Ds, hundreds. Otherwise, it's going to sound a little bit sloppy. Maybe people will still be able to understand what you're saying, but typically I don't think we leave those D sounds out. Great. Susan has a question. How to pronounce RE at the beginning of a verb. You say suffix, but I think you mean prefix, because if it's at the beginning, it's a prefix. So in words like remember or revolve or reduce, these are all unstressed and they sound like an I. So even though we spell it with an E, this is another great example, thank you, Susan, of if I think about E, I might want to say remember, reduce. And in connected speech, one of the things that happens in longer words is that the stressed syllable gets the clear vowel, and the unstressed syllable gets a reduced vowel. So usually the unstressed syllable will have an I sound or an sound. So in this case, usually letter E in an unstressed syllable sounds like an I. Remember, revolve, reduce. If I say reduce or revolve, people will still understand what I'm saying, but the correct pronunciation should be more reduced than that, reduced. I just said reduced, so I guess I do both. You want to go for a very short, light, reduced I sound. I do think there might be some words with RE where we do say re, but none come to mind right now. I'm thinking receive, renew. Yeah, I think most of the time we have an re for those words. So that's another great example of where the spelling misleads us. And it can be helpful to know which syllable gets the stress in the word. This is also something you can look up in the dictionary. So if I look in the dictionary, I'm going to see the symbols that'll tell me what vowel sound to use. I'm going to see the syllable stress, which syllable should be long. And I'm also going to be able to listen using the Oxford Dictionary to listen and repeat, which is a great way to start to hear these sounds and differences, how to imitate them and to begin to use that new pronunciation. So definitely recommend that. All right, we have another question. Having trouble with words like curl, pearl, world, and girl when pronouncing. Oh yeah, okay. So that's definitely something that came up in my poll this week in various places. Words like curl and girl and pearl and world, they all have the vowel. And then going from that in the back to the sound in the front is challenging. This is a very challenging combination. I do have a video about girl that I recommend. It really walks you through very carefully. And so for all of them, I suggest making sure you can do your tight back and also that you have your dark L, the sound. And so my light L at the start of words like, my whole tongue can lift up and the tip of my tongue or the blade of my tongue is behind my teeth. Like. I can feel my whole tongue is lifting. When I say girl, or let's try something easier like all, the back of my tongue stays down and only the tip lifts up for the L, all. So when I'm trying to combine my all, you see how I read that there. Before a dark L, we have a little bit of a schwa sound, all. When I'm trying to combine that with my that's far back, I need to slow down enough to transition between the two. And so for girl, I try just doing a tight grr and then sliding into my girl. And then I can bring those closer together. Girl. Until I have an and an that I can do separately, I'm going to really struggle with putting them together. So maybe starting just with words that have like bird or her and were are better. I would say bird is harder because you have a final consonant. So try her, were, ger. Once you have those mastered, try some words with like all, feel, real. Well, don't do real. It has an R too. Do some words with final L until your is solid. Then try words like curl, girl, world, pearl. It's definitely challenging. And some of the videos I'm planning on making in the next few weeks and months will be for these particularly challenging words. Use the girl video right now, though, because once you can do girl, you'll much more easily be able to do world and your other RL words. Thank you for bringing that up. That's definitely a struggle for most people. Even Americans, even native speakers, sometimes have to slow down and may struggle with those combinations because it's a challenging mouth position to go from one to the other. So Saeed asks, do I have a playlist for flap T? I do have not a playlist for American T, but a series of videos. And so if you go to the channel page, you can see there's a little search box that'll help you search on the channel. And you can search for American T or Final T, and those should come up. You can also, if you're just on YouTube in general, if you search speech modification and then the topic, it'll show you my videos as opposed to other people's videos. And then I'm going to just show you on my website. That's another great place to find resources. So if you go to speechmodification.com, and this is what I was showing you before. If you go to the free practice, so if I want to know about flap T, I can type in here flap T. And I have a couple great lessons on here. When you use the search tool, it's going to show you everything with flap T. So it's showing you a video about water. But what I wanted to show you is this one, American T, how Americans say the T sound in the start, middle, and ends of words. So there I have some of my YouTube videos, as well as some lists of words and some recordings that you can listen to try those words. Sorry, it took a minute to go there. All right, so here's some of my videos about American T. T at the beginning, an explanation what flap T is, and some of the videos that you'll see about water, about saying flap T, and then a pretty comprehensive list of, for all of these words, we use a flap T. For these T's, we use a stopped T, how to pronounce your flap T. So check that out. Again, the website is speechmodification.com. Use the free practice, use the search box, and then that should come up for you. Or you can always comment on any video, and I'll put the link directly in YouTube for you so you can go there and find it. So after class, if I remember, I'll put that in the comments for this video. And again, if you're watching anything of mine on YouTube, or if you're on Facebook, you have a question, you want to know where to find certain information, I typically do have videos and lessons for many, many things that you might be asking, and I'm happy to help you find it and direct you to that. So thank you for that question. We have another question. In the word roll, is there a W doing linking with dark L? There is W doing linking with dark L, but my question is, when we add ing to that word, is it still W and dark L, or does it become a clear L? Okay, so Susan's pointing out how we do vowel to vowel linking in something like roll, and I'm going from O to the and so there's a little bit of a W sound there. Kind of sounds like roll. But she wants to know, when we have rolling, is that still there? And so if you hear how I just said rolling, I didn't say rolling. I said rolling. That's because when I break the word rolling, so roll is one syllable, but it kind of almost sounds like two, roll. When I break the word rolling into two syllables, the break is here, rolling. And so then my L becomes a light front L because it's at the start of that syllable. So it's more like that, rolling, rolling. I don't have to do the dark O tongue. I can lift my full tongue when I go from the O, rolling, right into that light front L. So yeah, that can be a little tricky. The L's in the middle are most often that clear light front L because they'll be at the start of a syllable. We break the word before the consonant. Great question. Okay. Saeed wants to know my advice on practicing flap T because he's struggling to understand its concept. Yes, so this is definitely something that my clients struggle with sometimes. In terms of practicing, you can either try some of the words in my lesson, so trying words like better, letter, Seattle, greatest, etc. Or you may find that that's difficult because you're so used to seeing that T, producing the T the way you always have. You might be better off practicing with words with D in the middle. So for example, if I try this word, bedding, like the bedding on my bed, the sheets and blankets, in the middle of words, my D is very similar to a flap T, bedding, bedding. I'm very light, I'm touching up. I'm not really saying bedding with a hard pushed out D sound. And so if I can say bedding, I can also say bedding. In American English, these two words pretty much sound exactly the same. Bedding, bedding. And so the only difference is that my vowel is a little bit longer. If I said the bedding on my bed versus I'm betting on that happening, my vowel is a little bit longer, but that doesn't really matter for how you're saying that T and that D. And so for some people, approaching this flap T by working on words that have D in the middle is really helpful. So I'm actually working on a lesson for this right now. I have a client that is working on this, and we discovered this technique that really helps him. And so I'll have that for you fairly soon to work from a medial D to a medial T. In general, thinking about the flap T, just trying to think about it as a light touching up D and rewriting words. So if I'm trying to say greatest and I see that spelling, here we're back to my theme, the spelling. If I see that T, it might be hard for me not to say greatest with using a T sound. It might just sound strange. If I write greatest, okay, that's not a real word. greatest, but I'm more likely to say it with the flap T I need if I rewrite it in a way that my brain understands what I'm supposed to do. Greatest, greatest. So that's my suggestion to start, and use my videos and lessons. And I'm thinking that if you go through some of the steps that I outline in the SMART training process, it's going to be really helpful for you. I hope that that'll help you. And flap T is definitely something we talk about very frequently in this class. So come back in future Fridays, because many people ask questions about it, and it's definitely a topic that we touch on quite a bit. Okay, I'm going to answer the last few questions, and then we need to wrap up because we're running out of time. So we'll come back to the topic of spelling and sounds again next week. I think it's very useful. I want to show you that link I showed you for the vowel download. I'm going to put that in the chat now so that you can go right there and get it and start using it if you would find it helpful. You can also find that on my Facebook page and in my Facebook groups. I have a lot of downloads there for you as well. What other download did I want to show you? We'll leave that for next time. Okay, so last couple questions. Someone wants to know if it's bad to watch movies with subtitles. No, it can actually help to watch with subtitles. However, what I'm going to suggest is if you're watching in English, put on the English subtitles. So watch a movie or show in English with the closed captioning also in English. That actually is, they've done research to show that it actually helps your pronunciation, because what happens is your brain takes in the information of what it's hearing and what it's seeing, and it begins to match up. And so many of those things that we talk about in this class about how the written words don't match the spoken words, like the written words might be, I am going to go. And all the spelling is going to mess me up, where I might think I need to say, I am going to go. But what it really sounds like in connected speech is, I'm going to go. I'm going to go, or I'm gonna go. If I hear someone say, I'm going to go, I'm gonna go, and I see the written words, my brain is able to make an association with how something actually sounds versus how it looks. And it also helps you catch a lot of those little words that people say very quickly, helps you get the rhythm and the stress, and it's great. So using closed captioning is something that I definitely recommend for improving your pronunciation, improving your listening, your overall speaking. I do have a video about how to turn on closed captioning and use it in YouTube that also gives you some tips about slowing down YouTube videos so that you can really hear the way words and sounds connect, listen for those vowels more carefully and more easily. So those are definitely suggestions that I make. And yes, I recommend turning on closed captioning. Turning on subtitles in your own language when you're watching something in English is totally fine for enjoying the media. It's not as good for the language learning, because you'll have a tendency to be translating the English into your native language in your head, as opposed to trying to begin to use the English to think, to listen, to process, and to speak. You want to try to disconnect the English from your native language as much as you are able to, as you're becoming more and more fluent and proficient in English. Great. Okay. Looks like I missed someone's question. Sorry about that. I should go back and make sure that I didn't miss anybody else's. So your question was how to pronounce the word width and depths. Ooh, no, some other tricky ones. I'll have to add these to my list of tricky words. Okay, so width. What I tend to do is I don't really release that D sound. I do make it with my tongue, width, where I'm stopping the air. And some people say width with a voiceless TH, and some say width. No, I think it's voiceless TH. So this is really kind of gets a little bit devoiced. It's almost like a T and a TH, width. But it doesn't matter because I don't release it. So long vowel, with, stop the air with your tongue in the D position, width. and then release that D right into the TH sound with your tongue between your teeth. Width. Depths. Again, challenging even for native speakers, even for me. Depths is basically a very quick sequence of 3 consonant sounds, my P, my voiceless TH, and my S. So this one I would suggest breaking apart. So try just the dep with just the P, and then dep. There again, I kind of don't release that P. I don't say dep. I would have to insert another sound. So I move right from the P to the TH. Dep. I close off for the P. Dep. Come out for the TH, and then back in for the S. Depths. Depths. So try just dep. And you can try doing instead of releasing the P, just make the P with your lips, but don't release. Dep. Dep. Depths. Yes. So these are challenging, definitely. For any word, building it from the sounds slowly and trying the sounds separately and putting them together and then beginning to try to sequence those more quickly and easily takes time and practice, but you can definitely do it if you persist at it. So if those are words that you have to say a lot, really work on them. If you don't have to say them that much, don't worry about them as much, because you'll get there eventually, but it does take a lot of effort to sequence all those sounds. Okay, question about if there's a WhatsApp group for speech modification students. I did just recently get WhatsApp, so I'll look into creating a group for those of you who might be interested in that. Right now, there's just my community page here on YouTube and on Facebook, speech modification on Facebook. So thank you for that suggestion. Thank you for all of the great comments and questions and for being a part of class today. For those of you who are new, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, I recommend doing that, and you'll see when we have our next live classes and when I upload new videos for you. We'll meet again next Friday, same time, and we'll probably talk about this topic and, of course, take your questions again as well. I look forward to seeing you then, and I hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com. Remember, if you want to sound American, you can do it. speechmodification.com.